The other thing with besides your hair is they're talking about how the diet can affect, or the surgery can affect your teeth. Um, if you are doing this surgery, you have to be. My understanding is you have to be insanely committed to your protein intake and your hydration and getting enough macros every day. And it seems like when I watch the boards, the people who are struggling with their weight, they always seem to be struggling getting in their protein and water intake. And it it really, I mean, it's very clear that there's a pattern that's established with people who are not seeing the weight loss that they want even after having the surgery. And I did some research on it, and it's my understanding is that if you're not getting the protein that you need, your body can go into somewhat of a starvation mode. And I know from previous research that I've done about my weight is that um, people who have gained the weight, like, your body is like biologically set to for survival. So if at some point in your life you needed to have 100 pounds of extra weight on you, your body registers that as like a survival thing, like you needed that because you were going to go through an extra long winter and of starvation, and your body's like, okay, like I need to put this weight, she put this weight on me because I'm going to need it. And so once you've gained that weight, your body sort of sets that as your standard. And once you've lost it, your body can fight against you to put that weight back on your body. And it does that through changing your metabolic rate. So affecting like how hungry you are, so the hormone ghrelin that's made in your stomach will increase so that you are hungry more often, so that you will eat more often, so that your body can put that weight back on you, because it perceives it as like I talk about your body like it's like a separate entity from you, but there are functions that are happening that are out of your control inside your body, and your body um you know will work to put that weight back on you because it feels, it thinks that, it doesn't think, but it thinks that it's going to need that weight for another survival event. So um, it fights against you, and it will lower your metabolic rate and burn less calories. So there was a Harvard study on the contestants on The Biggest Loser that they talked about how some of them were going to were doing like 2 a days at the gym and eating like very restricted diets and like meal prepping, and they were keeping the weight off, but they had to work at it so hard to keep the weight off. They just weren't even living a life. Like, they were working, and then they were working on losing weight all day long. Like, it was a whole other job for them. Like, I can't live like that. I don't know about you, but I can't live like that. But their bodies, what the Harvard study found was that their bodies were actually fighting against them to put that weight back on, and it does it through hormonal changes. Like, there's two hormones in your body, ghrelin, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's GHRELIN, and leptin, LEPTIN, and between those two hormones, it affected their bodies enough to make them hungrier all the time, and it controlled their like your self-control. It affected their self-control, and so their bodies would lower the metabolic rate, so they weren't burning calories that like for a person of the weight that they were at, they weren't burning the amount of calories that they should have been. It had lowered their own personal like resting caloric burn to function, so that it could keep the weight on and keep it for survival. And I'm like, well, that's what you're working against. If put the weight on, like, never put the weight on, because if you've put the weight on, you can't get it off. I mean, like, you have so many things fighting against you to get it off. And my understanding from the surgery is that cutting out a portion of your stomach, it cuts out, ghrelin is produced in your stomach. It's not leptin, but ghrelin is, and ghrelin would, they cut out the portion, it controls that. So not only is it changing the physical amount of food you can take into your body, but also the hormonal effect that your stomach has on your body through ghrelin, through that hormone. And so I think for me that's what I'm looking for, because I can control how much food I'm putting in my body. I mean, I can create all kinds of food eating disorders because I could eat very little and get away with it. I just can't keep it up, and of course it's not healthy to do that. But the part where it controls how ghrelin is affecting my brain, that's the part that I'm looking for. Is that I don't want my body fighting against me when I'm trying to lose weight and get healthy so I can live. So the other interesting part of the research is that they found that ghrelin levels were actually lower could actually be lower in obese people. So like when your ghrelin levels are high, you're hungrier, and your body is sending signals to your brain like eat, 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 and talking to you. But people who are obese, like their ghrelin levels are actually fairly low. However, they had a sensitivity to ghrelin, so even if their levels were low, they were highly sensitive to it. Like it affects them more, and that could be like created when you gain weight in the first place. It could have created it, or it could just be genetic. And I'm wondering if it's genetic. Like, I've done some ancestry research on my family, and weight is an issue. And they talk about, there's no pictures of heavy people from the 50s and 60s. Like, that's garbage. Like, I've got so many pictures of family members that are like eating farm diets, like veggies and farm raised meats, and like they're heavy too, big busty women with thick waistlines. Like I've got pictures of family members that are in Victorian dresses that are heavy set women. So it's just kind of interesting to me, because I don't want to shrug off the responsibility of being heavy, because like I'm the one who put the food to my mouth, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I think it's helpful for me to understand that, when I look at these women that are running around like looking like little pixie sticks on wheels, like like they look like gazelles sometimes, and I'm like, why? Like, I don't look like that, and I never will, and my body never did. So what's the difference? And they can eat, like I've known girls that can eat so much food, like way more food than I could, and don't gain weight. Like, what is that? So I mean, there's some, like, everybody's like, I've also known those women to be, if they don't eat, that they get very, very thin, and they struggle with that. They struggle keeping muscle in their body and weight on their body. And I mean, everybody's built differently, but why? And it has to be at a metabolic or physiological level
where the hormones and how our bodies are built affect how we are holding on to weight. The whole adage of calories in, calories out. I don't know how much stock I put in that anymore, because I've done the calories in, calories out thing, and it works, but it doesn't always work. And sometimes it works, and sometimes I'm starving even though I ate a ton of food. I don't understand the fluctuations, and why out of all the things in my life I have been successful, and I can't be successful in this one area. So I'm working on it, and today is the first day, is the first step in that process, and I hope to do so much more, and kind of keep a record of my journey in this, because I will need to remind myself someday, like, what I went through.
I'm hoping someday like this is all past me. And I've talked to a friend who's like, oh, I thought about when I weight every single day and now I don't, you know and she shares her clothes with her daughter, like, oh my god, that'd be amazing, like just buy one thing rather than two things. You just pass it back and forth. But I think that would be the most ideal situation. I'm not actually angling for that at this point in my life. I'm not concerned about looking like a supermodel. I want to be comfortable in my clothes. I want to feel healthy enough to run around with my child and have fun at the beach and play and have a great time and be active. Um, and I think that I'm on that track. And but like I said, everybody's experience is different, so I have no idea still of how that's going to go for me. But I think that I'm doing the right things, and hopefully doing, thinking about it the right way, so that I'm not emotionally. I mean, I've seen some people who are emotionally changed by this and in a negative way on the boards, and it's a little scary to watch that. But they definitely needed a psychologist, and I think that's why I scheduled mine, because I really need to have someone to hash these things out with, that's trained to help me with these things. But it's about building my support network to do that. So many concerns, so many things to worry about, but I think we'll get there.